I'm sitting in the office yesterday morning, I guess it was, listening to another radio program, national syndicate situation, and I have it on my Android phone via the app, and they advertise Jim Harbaugh. And I'm going, oh boy, Jim Harbaugh. I kind of like Jim Harbaugh. He's a straight shooter, going to tell it like it is, not going to pull any punches. This ought to be good. So I listen. And I hear the interview start, and I think, okay, well, this is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting. Harbaugh is a character. We know that. And this other guy has a reputation of being outlandish as well. And about 5 minutes into it, I'm appalled. I hear one-word answers. I hear one-sentence answers. I even hear a confusion as far as a question is concerned. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world can you confuse that? As I listened, I thought to myself, what's the responsibility of the interviewer and the interviewee? Because I've done this now going on 35 years as far as talking to a coach, a player, whether it be live or on Memorex, and the basics never change. Number one, in an interviewer, you need to ask pertinent questions. Okay? I know this because the year I spent with Bob Knight in 06-07 doing men's basketball, I had to ask pertinent questions. I luckily prepared myself because previous people had not done that. And I realized also through Jack, with his couple of 2 years that he spent with Coach Knight, to ask pertinent questions, not stupid ones. So I prepared for each interview session that I had with Coach Knight for pregame. So I would write down thoughtfully what I wanted to inquire of and then ask that. And only once did I have him come back to me and say, that's not a good question. Let's start this interview over again. And he was gracious in doing so. But he is not a man that tolerates stupid questions, such as, Coach, what's the key to the game? Well, he'd look at you and tell you it's the same every damn night. No pun intended, but it is. You better shoot the ball, you better defend the ball, you better take care of the basketball, you better rebound the basketball. Period. It doesn't change. The keys of the game are always the stinking same. So when you ask that, whether it may be a different opponent, whether it's Texas or Baylor or Kansas, the keys to the game don't change. So you have to ask important, intellectual questions that are pertinent. You can't just be out there going, hey, how do you think you're going to win tonight? The same way you win every ball game. So that's the first thing that an interviewer must be conscious of. You need to ask smart, thoughtful, intellectual, pertinent questions. Number two, you don't need to go probing for a story during an interview. And not that this guy did. It was his first time, I believe, to interview Coach Harbaugh, and I think it was more of a fact-finding, let's get to know one another, I want to find out who Jim Harbaugh is, yada, 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 yada. So I don't believe that anyone was digging for any piece of story information to splatter all over the Twitter, tweet, whatever social media is out there that people splatter on nowadays. So I don't think that was the case. Now, the responsibility I have of an interviewee is twofold also. Whether you like it or not, you agreed to it. Don't be an ass. Plain and simple. Be cordial. Answer the questions asked. If you don't want to do the interview, then don't answer the telephone. Don't agree to it. But don't be an ass. Jim Harbaugh was that yesterday. Very short, curt, thoughtless answers to the questions and apparently misunderstood by, as in B-U-Y, for B-Y-E. And you're going, hey, second graders can figure that context out. You can't. Wait, you're a multi-million-dollar football. Oh, you've coached on the professional. Oh, you got to the Super Bowl too. Okay. I think you get my drift of where I'm going with Jim Harbaugh. Number 2, you have an opportunity to sell your program or your team or your brand, quote unquote, as players do individually. I'm selling my brand. Well, that's fine. That's okay. But they give you that opportunity to sell it. Jim Harbaugh, I ain't buying any stock in you, son. Not one stinking bit. And in fact, if I were a verbal commit, unless you're two-faced, which I'm kind of gathering that maybe you are, maybe you're something different publicly than you are privately, I don't know that I want to play for you. Because I don't think that you're honest. I don't think that you're trustworthy. If you show one thing publicly, but yet privately you're something else as far as your players are concerned, how's the best way to say this? I think you're a liar. Ooh, you don't call it. Yes, yeah, you call it like it is. I think Jim Harbaugh lied to you yesterday on the radio. I think he gave an impression that he's a jerk. But maybe to his players and to mommies and daddies that he's recruiting their kids, he's the nicest guy. I'll play shirts and skins with you. Yeah. I call that two-faced. Now you can call it however you see it, but again, I will tell you that the way I am here on the radio is the way I am publicly. Now granted, I'm a little bit of an introvert publicly because I don't have, a lot of things to say except here. And privately is the same way. I mean, we'll talk sports, but everything else I'm not very verbal with. But I got the impression that Jim Harbaugh is pretty two-faced. If you didn't want to do the damn interview, then don't pick up the telephone. And leave the national guys and, we're trying to get hold of Jim Harbaugh. Well, that's fine. If you don't, then that's great. He busted the interview. That's his choice. If he didn't want to do it, then don't do it. But don't be a turd in the process. Jim Harbaugh, to me, violated all the rules of being an interviewee. All right? I don't think that you have to be, you don't have to, even if you didn't like the interviewer, and I think probably privately he was trying to embarrass the interviewer because he probably doesn't like him. Why, I don't know. Because I don't think they've ever met nor talked. So I don't know what the premise is behind all that. But I kind of got the impression that he did not like the interviewer. So therefore he acted like a jerk. And the second point that I'm getting to is you're selling your program. You're selling your brand. I ain't buying any stock in it now. At all. If you're out there recruiting my kid, I'm going to ask you why you acted like a jerk to a national interviewer. Is that how you are all the time? Or are you something else different privately? Because if you are, I don't want my kid playing for you. Because I think you're two-faced. Now that's pretty harsh, I understand that. But there again, Jim Harbaugh makes a whole hell of a lot of money for being a real high-profile coach in a very high-profile sport in the United States. There's a lot of responsibility there, my friend. Whether you accept it or not, there's a whole bunch of responsibility for you, Jim Harbaugh, and I think you abdicated every stinking bit of it. I hope your recruiting falls flat on its face. I hope that Michigan runs you out of town inside 3 years, which they probably will. Because they'll get their gut full of you, just like San Francisco did, too. Some people are just like that. Some people, at least nowadays, you don't tolerate their antics. Now, maybe back in the 60s and 70s with Bob Knight, that was fun. Not now. Not now. So ultimately, I think Jim Harbaugh did his brand and his program at Michigan a huge national disservice yesterday with the antics that he put on with the national interviewer.